Well, indeed, it's Children's Day, and we did say that we're sparing a thought for the children. Today, we're joined by Beatrice Amaki Lawrence, who is a student here in the Federal Capital Territory, and also Joseph Joshua, who is also a student. Happy Children's Day to you.
Thank you.
To all of us.
I do not know sometimes if adolescents, do they feel like children? Do you like being called a child?
Sometimes.
You do sometimes,
yes.
On Children's Day.
Exactly.
And for you, I know it's a particularly special day. Today is your birthday.
Yes, Mom.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Mom.
Fantastic. Well, I don't know. I know that usually when you're an adolescent, you know, by that time, they're usually telling their parents, I'm no longer a child.
I know, right?
Stop treating me like a child.
Until you want to get the perks of a child, and you're like, okay, I'm a child right now.
So does today confer on you the perk of being a child? Let me ask you what today means for you. Let me start with you, Beatrice.
Well, Children's Day, for me as a person, is a day where we get to know each other. We get to familiarize with our parents better because the government has given us a day off since we are students, as per their honoring our special day. And as for me as a person, today is a significant day because it's my birthday as well, and I get a lot of gifts and prayers and blessings for the year to come. So
you know, when you were saying something about how you get to spend time with your parents or something like that, maybe for you it would be really special. I was just about to say that government gives children.
Didn't give parents.
Well, didn't give parents. So how are they supposed to spend the time with their children on Children's Day? But let me ask what your experience has been, Joseph. What exactly has your experience been when you think of Children's Day? What comes to your mind? What has that day been for you?
When I think of Children's Day, what comes to my mind is that day has been set aside by the government to celebrate God's creatures, we little children, also youths, probably adolescents. But that day has just been set in. It varies from countries and country. Different countries have different dates of celebrating children. But in Nigeria, they pick May 27th to celebrate we children. I think it imbibes the spirit of togetherness and unity among our youths.
Okay, amongst the youth. Okay.
Amongst the youths and the children.
Okay, so there has been really nothing. I mean, even I am thinking right now what used to happen on Children's Day.
That's your time, right?
I mean, it's still my time, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, in the past, we usually have March Past on
Yes.
Children's Day, and you go out inter-school competitions, cooking, dancing.
Yes.
But due to the insecurity in the country, parents no longer see the need, and also the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. They don't want to give out, they can't risk their children's life, taking them to public spaces like the stadium and Eagle Square.
And that's highly significant because I know that last year you were part of a special children's edition for leadership newspapers. Yeah. We did say that last year leadership newspapers had a very special edition, which front page. I mean, the nameplate of the paper was different. It was done up in the colors, beautiful colors, you know, and for leadership newspapers. And you were part of that. You wrote a story titled My COVID Experience.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a really beautiful story to read. And just talking about how things have changed, even in your own time, how insecurity has changed things, and maybe now health considerations as well. Tell us about that. I mean, how has it been for you in that transition? Because this is still you. You're still very young. You're in SS2 now. And yet, a lot of things have changed from what you know Children's Day used to be, even now that you know, you're still celebrating Children's Day.
Well, during that period of COVID-19 lockdown, I noticed that I started going into depression. But then, by the grace of God, and we also had more family time and family bonding, so I was able to get out of that state. And it was really frustrating because I'm usually the type that like going to school, and staying at home, seeing the same faces every day wasn't a joke. And it was stressful, doing all the chores and everything. But we thank God, we survived. During that state, what also helped me was reading my Bible and praying, family devotions and stuff.
Very important.
Exactly. And then the use of technology wasn't modified at that time. So online lessons and... Okay, yes, that was when U-Lesson came out.
Indeed.
So that was what helped me during that time. I got enrolled in U-Lesson and I was able to cover up some topics because immediately we resumed school after that pandemic. That was when I wrote my BC Junior WAEC. So it helped.
A great deal.
You know, guys,
well, yeah.
Pardon me, I'm going to abandon my questions
I was just about to talk to Joshua about that as well.
I'm just going to speak from my heart. I used to envy young people or children of these times because I see you with your devices and all. The best we used to do was maybe climb trees, just play with sand. But hearing from you how challenging it is to be a child at this time, it's a rude shock for me. And Joseph, I'd like you to also speak to that. Just how challenging is it to be a child right now?
It is actually very, very, very challenging to be a child. Very challenging. You don't, normally at this age, before getting to being adolescents, you don't have freedom. Your parents keep you at home. Some parents are very, very, very overprotective, especially in a country like this. So there's no freedom. Everything is just tight. You are doing all the chores, as she said. You are just the one that they are using at that point. Because, of course, when we grow up, probably marry, probably get a job, there will be no one to stay with them. So they are using this opportunity now to enjoy their children.
But she talked about depression, and I've heard that a lot with young people, children really, not even just young people, depression. And I mean, I don't quite understand. How much pressures do you face as a child, such that, I mean, you're probably close to depression and you need a lot of help, family help, as you said, religious help. Just how much pressure are you under?
When she spoke about depression, most children, why they are engaged in depression is because we children are very, very misunderstood. We are very misunderstood. So in a case whereby we are misunderstood and then nobody actually, our mind is different from the adult mind. So they don't want to actually bring down themselves to our stage in order to interpret us well. So that's why they just feel like we're saying irrelevant things and what we say don't matter, they don't care about it. And that's when we begin to feel lonely, self-isolated and depressed.
Okay. But things you say matter, they come from your heart, right? So you love parents and adults to listen to what you say and
Yes,
at least
sir.
understand from your level.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
we have more adults, by the way, in this conversation, so I'll flip this to my colleagues in Lagos.
Please be humble when you come.
Well, Kadi, I was just telling Bukola here that you took the question right out of my mouth. But I was going to ask it from the anecdote that you added. So let me ask Beatrice, since you already asked the gentleman. Do you think parents listen to their children? Do you think parents need to take time to listen to their children so that they can understand them better? If you agree, how should that conversation happen?
Thank you very much for that question. Well, I believe that most parents listen to their children, and how that can take place is that, like, when parents pay more attention to their children and they listen to them, they get to understand them better. Like my colleague just said, my colleague Joshua, he just said that most children are being misunderstood by the society at large. So when parents can take out time from their busy schedule and understand children, I believe that that deep bond and connection can be formed. Thank you.
You think children understand their parents? Do you think parents are able to convince their children to the point that they understand? Not that the children just say, Mommy says, do you understand? And the children just say, yes, I understand, without really understanding. So do you think children are able to understand their parents or the adults around them?
Well, in the society we live in, not all children understand their parents. Most of them are under the influence of peer group pressure. So most times they listen to their peers, and whatever their peers tell them is what they go for. They don't tend to read their parents' mind. For instance, me as a person, I tend to understand when my mom is in the mood and when she's not in the mood. Now, children to learn to discern their parents, and this can be done when you spend time with your children, like I earlier said.
Joshua, you've really given us food for thought this morning. That's why my question is for you. I want you to speak more to your position about how children are misunderstood. I mean, we want to do better as parents, but make it more practical. How do you expect us to do better in our relationship with you, with especially children of your age group? I want you to be more practical in terms of your academics, in terms of your extracurricular activities, when you're at home. How do we connect with you?
Okay. Most parents of today are more busy. So when we children come back from school and all that, they don't have time. They don't have time to, as you said, peer group pressure comes in. They don't have time to listen to their children. They don't have time to talk to their children. Hey, what did you do in school today? Hey, how was your lesson in school today? Is your teacher good? Is she bad? Is she doing the right thing? Is she doing the wrong thing? How are you coping in school? Your normal lifestyle, how are you doing? How are you growing? They're supposed to ask regular questions. Whenever they come back from work or they are less busy, they should dedicate time to their children, play with them, take them out, or do anything that makes them feel more together with their parents.
You also talked about you needing more freedoms, and it's understandable if parents of today would rather have their children in a safe space where their eyes, can go around and ensure that they're safe and secure. How do you expect that should be better managed if you want more freedoms at your age?
For my age, actually, when I said we need more freedom, I was talking about adolescents. Most adolescents of their age feel like they are no more supposed to be under the rule of their parents. They are supposed to be given freedom. They are supposed to be given some space, at least to stay with their friends, at least to play with their age mates and all that. But rather, parents which are overprotective at this age, parents which are overprotective within the age of 14, 15, 16, 17, parents are very, very overprotective at that age. They don't want anything to happen to their child. They don't want them to be killed because of the insecurity in our country today.
So, do you also agree, Beatrice, that parents are overprotective? I mean, you don't blame parents who are protective of their children because, I mean, they know how they grew up. And just as you both said, the way the parents grew up and the way, the environment is, the society is today, is a lot different than when they were growing up. Things were a lot safer and all of that. So the risks, the vulnerabilities of the environment were different. So do you blame parents for being overprotective, as Joseph said?
Not really. I don't really blame parents of nowadays for being overprotective of their children. The fact that we adolescents need freedom and we need personal space, there comes a time in our lives when that protectiveness is actually beneficiary for us. For instance, now, given the instance of the Chrisland girl, that particular incident, I don't think her parents were, they felt they were protecting her and providing everything she needed by providing gadgets and stuff. But they weren't setting eyes on her. Now, that protectiveness is not just about not letting you go out or not letting you go for hangouts or parties. They have a reason for doing such. It's not that parents don't let children go for parties. They let them go for birthday parties, but they let them go for parties that they are sure of the motive, what is going on there, what is happening. They don't just let you go for clubs or stuff. You won't blame parents because they already know, like the old adage that said, even if a young person climbs a tree and an old man that is sitting on the mat, he can see farther than you climbing the tree. Now, your parents, they've existed in this earth for years. They know things, even if they weren't modernized like we are now. But anyway, they have a reason for doing such. They don't just deprive you of certain rights.
Okay.
Do you get?
talking about right. Oh, yes, I do get. I understand that language. But, you know, talking about rights, denials, and all of those things. You talked about the engagement of technology for children the other time. That's another vulnerability that many parents didn't grow up with. As Kayode said, the biggest iPad your parents or their own parents had was what they call slates. And the stylus was a white chalk on blackboards. Now, many parents today may not know much about technology. So do you see a need for parents to guard and guide their children in the use of technology, which makes the children a lot more vulnerable to the outside world than they were when they were growing up?
Yes, I see the need for parents to learn and have proper use of technology in our society today, as this will help them reduce the risks that we face. There are certain apps and applications that let parents have their parental consent for the sites and websites that we adolescents can go for. Now, when parents are not aware of all these applications and softwares, they tend to leave their children vulnerable to the outside world. But if you as a parent, you are acquainted with all these devices and gadgets, there is no way that your child can be left vulnerable to different set of individuals in the society today.
So let me bring it back here now. Both of you, in speaking to us, have spoken about the security situation in the country. And it's something that is highly regrettable in terms of how parents have now had to become overprotective in an era or in an age where children should actually be allowed to go out to explore. It's really very regrettable. But let me ask you if you are aware of what is happening politically. Are you aware of what is happening today and tomorrow? Are you aware?
Yes.
What do you know is happening today and tomorrow and over the weekend?
Well, what I know is happening in Nigeria today, tomorrow, that's Saturday, Sunday, and probably Monday is the primary elections of the APC and PDP selecting their different candidates from their own parties. Okay, let me bring it down to the layman. This is the period where a particular party have different members that have already bought their forms, but everybody in that party has to pick a particular person from that party that can represent the entire body
of the party.
Exactly.
Okay, so you are aware of that as well,
Yes,
Joshua. Are you taking an interest in what is happening politically speaking? And let me ask you, Joshua. It seems that Beatrice is already taking an interest from her explanation. She understands what... Have you been following what has been happening politically in the country? Do you read the papers, for instance?
Yes, I do.
So sometimes you consider yourselves, I don't know, I'm sure your parents must tell you this once in a while, that you know that you're very lucky? I mean, in terms of the fact that at least you have parents who look after you, who send you to school, etc., etc. Sometimes when you see stories about other children who are out on the streets, who do not have so much, or children who are not allowed to go to school for maybe insecurity, or children who live in refugee camps, how do you feel?
When I hear about displaced persons or young people who are out of home, I feel very sad because, yes, indeed, I am very lucky to have parents. I'm very lucky to go to school. I'm very lucky to be exposed to technology and to God at this age. But when I hear about those people that are on the streets, roaming about, no education, they are just wasting their lives and time. I feel very sad about it.
Are you worried about the future of your country?
Yes, I'm very, very worried. The little I know is that this country has already been damaged to a certain point that it might take a long time to repair. So I am, yes, very, very worried about the future.
Would you say that you're being built to help do that repair, which you see would need to be, carried out in the future, in your future?
Yes, I am being built to carry out the building back and the refurbishing, the refining of this country again in the future.
I want you to speak to those who maybe perhaps are tuning in to watch with their parents this morning, because normally we don't get young people watching Sunrise Daily unless their parents are forcing them to. What would you like to tell them this morning if you were to carry a message to, children your age and maybe a little younger or a little older than you about today, about the future? What would you like to tell them?
Like to sum it up?
Yes, to sum it up.
Okay, well, to sum up the whole event, I would like to extend my warm greeting to you and to wish you a happy Children's Day to begin with. In addition, let's celebrate today with joy and let's be fully appreciative of the gift of childhood that have been given to us. However, do not forget that you have a role to play in the development of this country. There is a great responsibility ahead of us. As you celebrate, don't forget. Thank you.
It's a beautiful place to leave it, and it's the kind of conversation I'd love to continue.
Honestly.
But thank you both for coming on this morning. You have done amazingly well. Thank you so much. I know how early you had to wake up when, you know, your mates are still snoring and it's Children's Day, for God's sake. Beatrice Amaki Lawrence is a student at GSS Government Secondary School here in Abuja. See how we do here. I mean.
Okay.
And Joseph Joshua is also a student at the same school. Thank you both for coming on this morning. Very grateful indeed.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, ma'am.